Wszystko idzie w dół teraz.
Świat jest super. Trochę od tego, ale to no jaki sam teraz jest zaproszone, ale zaraz to się no mówię, problem to polegał na tym, że impreza
powiem ci 5 sekund do końca. Oczywiście wszyscy powinni.
tak.
Wszystkie rzeki świata są połączone ze sobą. Wszystkie wpadają do morza. To są krzywy naszej matki Ziemi. To jest opowieść o bezsilności i desperacji, ale też o determinacji, nadziei. Ludzie rzucili wyzwanie dewastacji życiodajnej. Są gotowi, aby je chronić i bronić. To jest nasza planeta. To są nasze rzeki. To my decydujemy.
10.
Hello, welcome at SGGW at this great sunny day. We met here today to talk about water, to talk about the gorgeous topic which is the drop drills the rock. We are here not necessarily happy with the weather. Of course, we like the sunny days, but as you realized, we have now continuous drought, and after very wet winter and very wet spring, we are now facing another problems with the amount of water, quality of water, and all the issues related to water in the landscape. So this is the best place to talk about it, and we have here the best people to talk about it as well, because we are hosting here the director of the movie that the trailer you've seen of just a few seconds ago. The famous Eva Ewart, who is a very influential movie director and is tackling only the most important issues for the society and economy. Piotr Nieznański, who is a great guy working together with me for several years right now about water, with issues of water, and a representative of non-governmental organization. And Zuzanna Kulis, the representative of our university, a student, a master student who is now wishing to take challenge of working together with us with some hydrological issues. My name is Mateusz Grigoruk. I'm hydrologist representing Department of Hydrology, Meteorology and Water Management of Warsaw University of Life Sciences. We are all kind of different, but we all have a very similar approach to rivers, to water, and to problems that rivers, water are facing every day. And we are struggling to say that they are not that much existent in our reality as we would expect them to be. So the first topic we would like to tackle today is the universality of the message in the movie. I tend to believe that you sit in your armchair, you look at the movie, you look at Italy, you look at Canada, and perhaps you don't address your feelings to your personal experience with river, but after watching the full movie, you realize that this is your river, and despite the fact that these rivers described in the movie are maybe not your personal river that you know by heart, you see that the problem is universal. Eva, what do you think? Is the problem of rivers universal around the world, or maybe Poland is somehow specific in this matter?
Yeah. I think that Poland is very much part of the global problems we face regarding rivers, regarding waters to a varying degree. Well, if you bear in mind that basically key problems, water-related key problems are, we have either too much water, too little water, and we have serious problems with water management. And Poland is very much part of that equation, and all these problems also we can see happen in Poland. I mean, the fact in the movie, Poland is represented sadly by a huge catastrophe that took place on Odra River in the summer 2022, and it was caused directly by these two problems. I mean, water management, which was basically which is the problem of polluting river, mixed with the drought, and it turned out to be an absolute toxic mix that was the direct cause of this catastrophe. So this is the best example that confirms that Poland definitely is part of sort of global picture that we do have, you know, that we face similar problems here.
So Piotr, don't you think we also struggle with the fact that water does not exist in the societal perception unless it makes a problem? So it might be too much water, too less water, and only at this moment the society is attempting to tackle this issue. So what do you think about it? Why is it so? What is the problem with that?
As long as Mr. Kowalski and Mr. Smith has access to water, they don't see any problem. There is a water in the tap, you just open it and water is here every day. But what we have observed in last decades, the problems with floods and droughts are really touching people personally, not only according the dry period for example, agriculture, but we've faced the problem with the water scarcity in some cities in Poland already. They were 2-3 years ago. There were many communities where the water was limited already in Poland, which was not the case before. We have a kind of phenomena in our country that on the same time, on the one part of the country we have floods, and on the other part of the country we have a drought. We have floods coming just after the long period of droughts. So all the problems which we are faced globally are already here. And I think that for the society it becomes to be very, very clear after the big ecological disaster on Odra River, because all of us, we were witnessing really in few days collapsing of a huge ecosystem where over 50% of fishes died in few days. So it's hard to imagine that, and it was really shocking for the public, and this is still shocking. As you know, the European Union report about the environmental disasters showed the Odra example as one of the biggest disaster in Europe in last decades.
I would disagree with one element with you, because you mentioned that these are ecological disasters. I would just call them disasters. The problem is that in the US, for instance, if you recall the movie of Damnation, they said that breaches of dams were considered natural disasters, and they are not natural disasters. Yeah. I tend to believe that if you look at the case of Oder, and if you name it ecological disaster, some people might say, well, it's ecology, it's not us. It's like, only some bloody fish, and that's it. I think that we should keep to the disaster and this.
That's right. All those disasters are caused by us. Floods, droughts, and pollution of water, first of all, is caused by humans. So, agree.
But another important element. I mean, it's clear to me, but I deal with this every day, and so as you. So the river is not a problem itself, I would say, yes, because the river is only collecting everything from the large area, which means that the river is a victim. And I would say that when you look at the river and when you ask people in a society about the river which is close by, they normally say, well, okay, it's dirty, or it is their river itself who is to be blamed. Whilst the river is not to be blamed. The river is a victim. And now I would talk about this with Susanna, because for us it's quite obvious, but what do you think about the perception of this fact among the younger part of our society? So is there this knowledge and attitude towards the fact that dirty river is not the problem of the river, it's the problem of water management policy and other actions in the catchment river basin?
Yeah, I think it's very complicated. It depends on the group of the young people, of course, but I think young people, for example, students are more open-minded than, for example, my parents and my grandmother, of course. But before our discussion, I talked with my friends from conservation, nature conservation, or from different industry, for example, from law or from economics. And I think it's little obvious for them that it's not only point. The condition of the river in one point is not result of this only place, but it's bigger problem. But when I try explain why, how it look like, it is easy to make some conclusion about it, but it's not that it's not part of daily routine in thinking for young people too, especially that we are not that much linked with river than we wish. I mean, we are separately between river and young people, so it's not easy to have just surprise thing about the river. But I recognize that it's possible to give more information about the big scale of river condition, especially for young people.
So I think that when you go somewhere to the shopping mall and you see these places where they sell holidays, you can go to Turkey, you can go to Seychelles, you can go everywhere, and I didn't see there none of the times some kind of advertisement like, let's go to grandma to the village, so like the holiday in grandma to the village. Some years ago it was a routine to people to go to get experience of the village, to get an experience of the river. Nowadays, I think that the problems that you mentioned now, Susanna, they correspond to the fact that we are disconnected from the river. In the past, we've been connected much more, and I'm wondering, is there any chance to improve it?
Well, we're not only disconnected from the river, we basically disconnected from nature, period. You know, I think that this is the key problem. I also would like to quickly refer to how you started this part of the debate. Rivers are not the problem, we are the problem. And I very much would like to believe what you are saying, that the younger people, younger generation are more open-minded and perhaps more receptive, you know, towards urgent messages that we basically need to send via education. Because these young people very quickly, very soon, and this future it's around the corner, will be those decision makers who will be very much, we hope, making very different type of decisions when it comes to water management, river management, than the current people who are in charge. And as a I think this is going to be a very good example. Peter sent me yesterday a quote from somebody who shared his thoughts on Twitter. And this guy is the spokesman for one of the major construction company who put the following thought, quote unquote, "There is no more beautiful sight than a regulated river." And he was referring to a part of river that has just been regulated, which is going to be part of a major waterway system between a city of Elbląg in Poland and the Tree City, which is obviously part of some major infrastructure plan that basically wants to transform naturally flowing river into a major transport highway. Well, I mean, this type of decision makers, we don't need them anymore. We need young people with a very different perception.
If I may add something, because that was very interesting to observe the comments, and there were many comments from young people, very funny one, but showing that the thinking and perception is totally different from that engineering on water, totally different. People are asking questions about ecosystem services, about the need to have access to natural rivers and so on and so on. So it is a really clear picture showing the difference between the engineering kind of and economic use of rivers and the needs of people, just like that. I'm very lucky guy because I'm working in the field a lot, managing some field project on restoration projects on rivers, and I meet people in the field which are very close to the river. Those are not only anglers, those are just people living close to the river, and they have much more understanding of the river biology, hydromorphology processes that all the engineering stuff projecting some, solutions in Warsaw or somewhere in the city for local people. Those are two different worlds.
Yeah, but then don't you think that there is nothing wrong with liking weird things? I mean, a lot of people like weird things, and I'm quite okay with that. But then the problem is that the case that he does like this regulated river should not affect water management, because water management is not beneficial from this type of water management. So this is like I can like different things, and it's possibly okay for me, but the cost for that is is made by the society because we pay for that, and two, the consequences will also be affecting ourselves.
But I see no reason why the majority should suffer the consequences of the taste of one decision maker, and here this is the problem that I mean, I always give this example. Let's take a decision maker to the river, and let's take a person to the river who really appreciates what the river has to offer, who really enjoys the river. And these two people will have very different perception. The guy who enjoys the river will be admiring the beauty of the river and will be grateful what the river has to offer, while the guy standing next to him, who, for example, likes the sight of regulated river, will have a sort of calculator working in his head, thinking how much money he can make on the river. And here we have the problem that we have people in charge who are making these decisions, and the majority of us are suffering the consequences of these decisions. And I think that this is, part of the message of what I'm talking about, it comes very clearly from the film. As a part of the solution, what do we need to turn these things around? I think that there is, perhaps I'm kind of running ahead of our debate, but first of all, we need a massive educational campaign, education, to get all these messages across.
But let's stop here for the moment, and let's have a look at the history of science in that matter. I admire the guy, but I hate him. He did something that I wish to do. This was the paper of Robert Costanza, 1997, The Value of World's Ecosystems. I'm quite sure that some of you know the paper, and this was the beginning of the debate about the value of environment. And it's not only about this value we can gain directly, so we earn on the river or so. It was about the general value of ecosystems. And nowadays we discuss, so the science in the field of river engineering, we also talk about benefits we get. But these benefits are expressed the other way. So we get clean water, we get fish in the river, we get stable and cheap ecosystem to maintain, because healthy river is much cheaper to maintain than the river which is affected by regulation or so. So the question is why people tend to accept messages about benefits which are short term, but they deny benefits that are to be achieved in a little bit longer run. Because we are mainly talking about stable ecosystems for the future of our new generations, of our children, whilst the guy you quoted I have a feeling that he's looking at that only in the horizon of the next 5 years, where he can make the benefit out of the river.
I have just one short comment, hearing what we are saying about the science and universities. I think more than universities and science, more knowledge is in the First Nations. We met in Canada, for example, which are living close to the river and which knows everyday benefits coming from the rivers, because they are catching fish there. They are living with the river since thousands of years, and those people have a knowledge we already forgot. No. Even in some universities.
And, I mean, there's a very catchy word that is kind of circulating and is being used in, variety of contexts, like sustainability. I mean, I don't think we as, people completely disconnected from nature, that we really understand the notion. And people that actually also feature in the story, amazing story, how these people, First Nation, been fighting for their river from being completely destroyed by the hydropower plants to build some hydropower stations on the river. They do. I mean, we should really, it should be sort of a nature university where we could learn the proper meaning of how to be sustainable. Because these people, their ancestors, for ages been living off river. But there is a very different thing, living off river and abusing the river. What we do, we don't live off river, we don't enjoy the river, we systematically abuse what actually sustain us.
So it's quite clear that we adore the things, or we admire the things that we got with our hard work. And I imagine the guy in the village of these pristine tribes who are living somewhere, or who live off the river, not abusing the river in Canada or somewhere else. And they know how hard it is to get water. People know how hard to get food, how hard it is to get food when you get it on your own. So how to discuss about this issue now with the young people who tend to believe that everything is super easy. You get everything every day. If you want to get your clean water, you get it from your tap. And how to persuade younger generations that it's not a game, it's not a toy. River is not a game. It's like our future sustainability. Do you have any ideas about this, Susanna?
I think it's a very hard question, absolutely. On one side, our generation is very, very useful with smartphones, so we can check everything. But for another hand, possibility to think what we can change is harder, because we need completely thinking about the ecosystem, about a lot of layers of the ecosystem, so it's very hard. And on another hand, we try, I wish, to put beaver everywhere in the pond, just make overflow everywhere and renaturalization all river, but I know that it's impossible. So we need talking with people who can make some decision about manage the river, and I think it's very hard to change thinking about rivers, about drainage, for example, agriculture places where this problem is very important from our point of view. But
I mean, we did this research, and unfortunately, the younger the people we asked, the better the acceptance to a good river was. When we discussed about the rivers with the older people, they tend to provide us more negative answers. I started to believe that it might be related to the fact that you live longer, so you see more disasters that, I don't know, river or weather can do. But this can also be an element of a former education, because in the former years, when you read some papers related to river regulations and stuff, most of people say that this ecosystem provides a good opportunity for economy after regulating its course. So you need to do something, you need to regulate it, and by meaning regulated means better. Why it's so hard to communicate to people that regulation is not only doing good things? Because when we go outside here to the bus stop, when you ask people what is better, regulated river or unregulated river, they would possibly say that regulated is better, because they think that, I don't know, eyebrows regulated are better. Piotr.
I think it's not just about the education, first of all. It's exactly disconnection with the nature. The kids are really observing the surrounding, and they are very close to the nature all the time. But with the age and with education, it's somehow disappearing, the connection with nature. That's the first thing. About education, that's a huge subject, I must say, because we just started the program Code for Blue, which is focused on education about water for the grant schools and college, and our kind of education is totally different from the traditional one. Yeah.
But before coming to that topic, I would like to ask you, Eva, because I've learned that you spent much more time abroad than we did. So you used to live in the UK for a certain amount of time, and if you had to put on the way two approaches to the environment, like the Polish approach to environment and the one that you earned from the other countries. What are the main differences?
Well, it's a kind of uneven, you know. I lived more than in just UK. I indeed lived for many years abroad, totally. I mean, longer. I lived abroad than I actually lived in Poland. And Poland is catching up, I think, but only recently. It's not to say that everything abroad, what I witness, is hunky-dory. Actually, UK has huge problems with water management, water pollution. I mean, you know, they have a lot to answer for when it comes to water management and how they treat water. And I mean, there are a number of very serious issues when it comes to that. I think that because we are now one global village, so it is much easy. It's easier for the information flow, you know, between the countries and different approaches and exchanges. And I think that plus, you know, you have the local activists, you know, which I have to say, working on this film, I was incredibly encouraged what I've seen. And you know, and I very much hope that the message of the local activists is really going to seep through the public perception. Poland, I mean, we are not the worst of the cases. I would say we are catching up with how our mindset keep changing. You know, when it comes to environmental issue, and perhaps, you know, when it comes to water conservation. But we still have a lot to do. You know, there are still a lot of lessons to, you know, to deal with. Yeah.
So it is always surprising to me that rivers integrate society. So this is my private experience when I look at the map. I love to look at maps as a geographer. I find some rivers, then I go there, and I'm talking really about the crazy river somewhere in northern Norway or so. I go there and I think, yes, I found my own river. And no, you always meet these activists there. So there are these guys who are looking after the river. They're looking at fishermen. They're looking at all the infrastructure there. So it's very good that they are there. But this is not our target. Piotr, your experience with education is much broader, and the question to you now, also facing what Zuzanna had said just before, how to educate. So is education by experience the best, or maybe you think that you can do something remotely, like sitting with your tablet and show children puzzles with the river? So please follow this sketch and make
easy.
it better.
First of all, when talking about education, our approach is that you don't have to have all the knowledge in your head. It's impossible. So we are more teaching about how to navigate, how to find information, and how to use the information which is already existing. And the navigation and cooperation is the most important thing, because when talking about the challenges we are facing now, the huge challenges in the world, I mean the climate, the water crisis, losing the biodiversity, we have to have a new approach to the education, much more practical one, because what we are trying to implement in education is really how to solve the problems. So using empathy, using technology, using field work, using design thinking, we are trying to guide the students on the process how to find practical solutions. And this is the teaching process, because the knowledge is already existing. You have to choose good tool to find the knowledge and to cooperate, and then you can find the solution. So we are not educating from the books. We are not teachers. We are like mentors who are and people who are guiding through the knowledge to find practical solutions. That's totally different approach and different education from the classical one.
Yeah, we are in it together, and in fact, when we were working together on this film, it was Peter's idea, to use the material that we gather for this film in this educational program, and this is exactly what we are doing based on the material. I mean, the film, the full-length documentary is just over an hour, but we are now making short films based on some main messages, main themes of the narrative of the film, and I'm actually working on this personally, trying to change it into some kind of educational tool, just exactly along the line that Peter just explained. And I would like to propose a sort of revolutionary thought. I mean, thinking about it all, I think that we need, and would be very welcome, kind of a new kind of epidemic. We really need a kind of new virus, that would spread from those local activists, like we see in the film, people who are completely dedicated, who work on the organic level, who really know the problems of the river. And we really need that they some kind of let the virus spread, Perhaps education is going to be a good field for spreading this kind of virus. And, only through spreading this kind of virus and causing this kind of epidemic on a large scale, I think that we can really hope for some tangible results in terms how to prepare the next generation of decision makers.
Just a short comment on that, because during our trip with Eva and filmmaking, we met people around the world which are creating a real river society. Those are people like you are saying, activists, not only activists, are politicians, artists, biologists, so really a huge amount and different kind of people who are fascinated by rivers, and why they are working so hardly to change change the status of the river, to bring the good ecological status, because they don't have a systematic support from the governments. So this is bottom-up approach from the local people, and I think they will create. We are already creating the world society working on rivers, really a kind of revolution which will then change the mind of politicians and decision makers very soon.
I mean, I could strongly support your hypothesis here, because we did a research about it, because we spend most of the time on the river and we know rivers. We have our own rivers. I hope you all do. It is true that in the European Union nowadays, most of river restoration projects are run by activists. So it's not like the government is saying, let's look at the river, let's fix it up. I mean, things are changing, okay? But it is always the local activist who pulls the trigger, and they are looking at the river frequently without any funds, normally just knowing the river. But I tend to believe that, again, we might blame our contemporary education. For instance, we get more and more specialized, if you know what I mean. So we go more into details, and this general knowledge about integrating elements is getting weaker, because we don't see the things connected. And I think rivers, the message we spread here is so much important, because river is always at the end of many processes. So it's always like engineering, river, agriculture, river, fishing, river, housing, river, building a bridge. Guys, did you realize that every bridge you pass, it's the element of river calculation, it's an element of design thinking and engineering. And so question to you, Susanna, do you think now that the education in general, the environmental education, is good enough to tell the students that you are to be blamed because your professors are doing everything right and everything is done, and the students are misunderstanding the stuff which we are selling? What is your opinion in this field?
Yeah, I think it's, you have right, little, maybe, I hope, little only, because during study process, we are a lot of subject, and it's linked or not, we like it or not, it have sense or not, and it's only for give us some opportunity and for show us some path which we can choose, where we can go, and I wish, and I believe in that students prefer have some idea and go in this way, just improve yourself in this topic, especially that about nature, about the ecosystem is very complicated, and a lot of hard and not easy stuff is connected with it. So river, yeah, like you talk, it's told, it's a result of a lot of effects. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to think about the river only about water inside, because we have invertebrates here, we have plants, we have agriculture around, we have biogen from house, from agriculture. So it's very, very, very hard, and I'm sure we need to have a lot of friends from different range, different natural parts to cooperate and create some teams for working together. Just everybody can focus on something, specialization, very, very thin part, but river is not that easy. So,
I mean, as a geographer, when I graduated university, I asked, oh no, it was still before. I think it was somewhere when I was at the high school, I met a professor of geography, and I asked him, is it worth of going to study geography? And he said to me, yes, it is worth, but after 5 years, you will realize that you know nothing and you are not specialist in everything, but you think that you know everything. And I think this way of thinking helps you to look holistically at the environment, but I have a feeling that when we train environmental engineers, journalists, biologists, I think it gets a way too narrow. How to make it broader? To force people to go to the other courses, or to make it more flexible?
Well, I don't think I've been trained as a journalist. I mean, first of all, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I actually passionately believe in a language of documentary as a way of conveying important messages, and that was the reason why we decided to make this film about water. I mean, to begin with, I mean, it was a very tough challenge, high order, make a film about water. I mean, make film about water. It's like as vast as water, right? And then by trials and errors, we narrowed down the focus of this film, that this film should be told through rivers. And I also found in one of the scientific reports the reason why it should be told mainly from the European perspective. Because here in Europe, we all believe that water problems belong to the third world countries, and we are all happy here and we have no problems. Well, the opposite is the true, as the report, which was very recent, and it was a extensive work that took 4 years to a team of international scientists who were, for 4 years, they were looking into a condition globally of rivers, and they came to, I mean, frightening conclusions. And one conclusion was that the third most polluted river in the world flows in Italy, you know, in the cradle of our Western civilization, and only one third of rivers globally still run natural course. I mean, the rest have been seriously interfered by human factor, you know, bad management, and the list goes and on and on and on.
91% of Polish rivers require restoration.
Yeah, well,
And this is fact, because we calculated that on the basis of independent criteria. But the question is that if you look at your movie, and when you select some threads from it, like the thread of Canadians, they said, okay, this is our societal expectation to make the river running well, to keep the river in a good status. I didn't observe that in Poland. So, I mean, when we had this disaster on Oder, I have seen some people saying, yeah, the water quality is so poor that we should do something with that. But the society did not rise, and the society did not say, hey guys, let's stop playing with the thread, let's do something, and let's do it now. I mean, the government started to do some things, but it was not the movement from the society. And I'm so much surprised that we know that our life belongs to the environment. We know that we are all dependent on water, but suddenly it was like, oh yes, well, Oder is far away, it's 400 kilometers from Warsaw, no problem in general.
A bit disagree with that. First of all, there is a coalition of NGOs working on rivers protection in Poland, called coalition. There are two coalitions, in fact. One is Time for the Odra River, which was reactivated, a coalition of NGOs and scientists working on better management of Odra River, and the second one is Save the River Coalition, very active one. Those are over 80 NGOs, scientists, and people who are really jointly trying to convince local decision makers and the Polish government to manage the rivers and lakes in the better way. But there is also a response from the society, which is, the problem is that we are created and we are observing the world through media. And during the disaster in 2022 on Odra River, there was nothing in the public media about it. Nothing. There was only a debate and pictures from the in the private media. And just imagine that 60% of Polish society were at that time watching mainly TVP, which was a public television. They were not transmitting anything about what is happening on Odra River. So we are really highly depend on the picture which we see in media, and this has changed after the Odra disaster. We still have comments on that. We have independent reports. We have some response from the society. People want to have clear water and healthy rivers.
Yeah, well, this is true. For sure, I've seen a lot of examples after the case of Oder that people reported some malfunctions of rivers. So from my personal experience, it was that some people found a dead fish, and from time to time when you are at the river, you find a dead fish from this or that reason. And then people started to say, oh, that fish, so possibly a huge disaster, and let's look at it. This was fantastic. But nowadays, I still think that when this societal emotions went a little bit down, and they are higher than before, but they stabilized a little bit, then the topic of rivers is still political. And why? I think it should not be political. I mean, rivers are element of our reality, and it is not a question whether we want them in a good health or not, because all the scientific results, all of the research conducted on rivers, they say really clearly and loudly, you cannot play with those rivers, otherwise it would be very expensive. Oder was an expensive element. I did not realize that people said to me once that, hey, Oder is a working river, leave it alone. Oder is important for industry, so we need to keep it in a poor status, which is of course not true. And suddenly people are saying, oh, well, this Oder was related to some other elements, and don't blame us, and it immediately starts to be political.
Yeah, politicians. When observing the elections in Poland, and when observing the political programs of all those parties, there were many things about water protection in the political programs. Just if you take a look on the political program of current government during the election time, everywhere they were talking about clear water. About even Mr. Tusk said that the disaster on Odra river will never happen again. Yeah? So my comments on that is there was a response of politicians because people were interested on the subject that time. Like I said before, 50% of the fish stock died during the disaster, but fish don't have a voice. They will not go to the elections. So slowly, like you said, after the disaster, people are just forgetting the issue. And what we can observe that the people are interested in the issue of rivers when the flood is coming, when there is a long dry period, where the river is so polluted that fish are dying. They have to be shocked.
So
somehow,
unfortunately, this happens more and more recently. So
yeah, which don't bring me a hope.
That's true. But when you look at this political perspective, let's stop at this by the end of our debate now. So, Zuzanna, do you think that environmental training, sorry for the word, but environmental training, environmental education, is it enough to make voters to select right people, or maybe is it enough to put the pressure on a government to finally play well with the rivers?
I think maybe not, because during education we can change thinking only in brain and few person. It depends of course of the group and the style when the education will be, but what will be better, I can't answer you. So education is, I think, the best, not perfect, but the best way for change something in public mind. Yeah, but I think what you ever told about the virus epidemic, I love this idea a lot, because I'm scout and I'm sure that working with small group, with go outside in the field, show what is nice, what is wrong, what the river is during, concrete in the channel, what is river after naturalization, is very, very, I think, nice idea to compare and show maybe child, it will be the easier because you can take during some lesson child from the school and hey, come, I can show you some ducks in the river. It's very nice. There are not ducks. There are in the river nature, more nature. So I'm sure that the education is one of the most important part of it.
Well, you know, we had a very good experience with that working in the national park. I remember that we addressed some messages to children, and I was so much surprised at these simple messages like, have a look, climate change. Yes, okay. Do you remember February 10 years ago? Yes. Do you remember February last year? Yes. Was it warmer? Yes. This was very simple message to children, and I was so much surprised that these children come back home. They leave this, you know, colorful newspaper for children, and parents are just coming home and they are just looking, what is there? Let's have a look. And simple messages which we provided to children, they were widely accepted by adults, and I thought that it's a good way to sneak to this world by children. And the second inspiration from you, Susanna, is to me that when you educate your children in this let's say, respect to the environment, for them in few years from now, this respect will be a natural thing. For most of people, so when we did this in the national park, we had this like a breaking point. There were older people to whom national park was something new, and we had children to whom national park was always there. And children tend to say that we need to obey the rules, we need to follow some regulations, because it's like regular life. It's not something new. And I have a feeling that we implement something new, then people deny it because they think that it should be done the old way.
Well, I think there will be a great idea if we incorporate into sort of a teachers contingent people from First Nations. I really would love to bring them to schools and start teaching, you know, young education, because young generation, because I think that unfortunately we are very funny species, you know, humans, and I think that until we are shocked in our existence and until we actually face existential threat, I can see that this road towards changing the mindset, towards changing the approach towards our environment, it's going to be very, very tricky, you know, because for so long, you know, in our mindset, it's rooted this idea that basically, nature needs to be tamed in its every aspect, and part of that aspect is, you know, what we are doing to rivers and this is our source of life, you know. I mean, in the film we have some pretty sobering statistics. Yeah, I mean, you know, we are very lulled into kind of complacent feeling, thinking that, come on, it's a blue planet, you know, it's water everywhere. You know, indeed, you know, over 70% of our globe it's water covered, but most of that is completely useless for human consumption and for human existence. The water that we need to exist, it's less than 1%, and it is contained within our rivers, mostly. I mean, there is part of that, it's underground water and lakes, you know, but it is really minute compared to rivers are life givers, you know, and unless we really, really understand that message, I mean, I think we are doomed. And this is not the message of this film, because I was very mindful about not creating a film that would only scare people and leave them with a message that it's, oh my God, it's awful and it's only going to get worse. No, the message of this film, if you watch it full, it's very balanced. Yes, you know, we have to face some very unsavory phenomena, what we do to our rivers, but there is also hope, you know, and the half of the film is basically pointing solutions, what can be done. And, you know, it is down to us. You know?
Yeah. So the simple messages, I think, they are the most important because people can seemingly follow them, and the hope is very important. That is why we, some time ago, we asked together in the team how to facilitate it, how to make it better. And the biggest problem we faced together was that when you see a person lying on the ground, you always go to this person, you approach the person, you check if everything is okay. Although you might expect that the person is perfectly fine, maybe he's still at a party or something, you always come to the person, you always check. This is your duty. According to our law, this is your obligation. If you don't help the person, then you can be punished, you can be fined for that. And the problem with rivers was that when you look at the river which is polluted, then you say like, okay, it's just a polluted river, let's keep it aside. So that is why you ask yourself the question why we have here a float, and it's a little bit dirty, so we brought it just from the river. We developed this together with a group of experts, with BNP, with SGGW, our university, with Havas, with other developers. So this is just a simple tool that you can put to your river, and together with your mobile app you can make a very simple measurement that tells you what is the salt content to your river. So it's quite obvious that when you put it to fresh water, it should never scare you. So I checked this, and if you put this to order during the catastrophe, or even now, even today, it shows that the river is heavily polluted because so big amount of salt. And do you think that this is, I mean, is this enough? Is it a good idea to try to attract people to go to the river, to touch it, to stay a little bit? Because it's not like you put this and it makes measurement immediately. You need to stay there for some minutes and to wait. Is it a good way? So is this methods of citizen science, are they okay to facilitate knowledge and to improve attitude of people towards rivers?
I think they are great, not only from the educational point of view, but this is a very practical solution where the people can really, making the measurement, they can really support the public monitoring system. So, but from the educational point of view, it's very hard to teach about the subject which you are not touching. Mm-hmm. If we are talking about water, rivers, we are just taking the people to the to touch the water, to touch the river, and it works fantastic. Because if you just see the river in the book, you have no chance to see the life in the river. So being very close to the subject is the best way of the education. You have the much more not only picture but understanding of the subject. That is why those people who are very close to the river all the time, they are much better understanding the processes and the needs of the rivers.
So at the end of the debate, I will be asking really private question to all of you and then to the others. Piotr, Eva, Zuzanna, have you ever been swimming in a river?
Yes.
By intention, I mean not like falling down and then trying to rescue yourself, but by intention, just...
I mean, yeah, I can think of a number of rivers that I swam in, or perhaps not swim. I mean, it's a bit difficult to swim, you know, like you swim in a swimming pool, but I've been definitely in a very intimate contact with river, you know, like entering the river, like, I don't know, walking the river, you know, crossing the river. I mean, I would be very careful, and I would be expecting a river, you know, I would be invited to perhaps enter these days, and depends where that river would flow. I mean, we were filming in Albania, you know, it's a fantastic story about Vjosa River, which is the last wild running river in Europe, and there is a story of one activist who dedicated 10 years of his life to save that river from a major development that would completely destroy it, not only the river, but also the lives of communities who been living with that river for generations. And I was so hypnotized by the view, by the sight of that river, by how incredibly clean was the water. And I was just thinking, my goodness, I mean, it is just so unique, that river, and it is one of a kind. We just don't have any more river. We don't have any more rivers like that in Europe. I would definitely swim in that river. But it would be possibly the only river in Europe that I would be walking into without hesitation.
Czarna Hańcza.
I'm so lucky because I'm swimming on wherever I can in the rivers, and I'm lucky because I'm living very close to Czarna Hańcza river in the south east of Poland. Just I see the river from my window, so my kids, me, my wife, we are swimming in the river wherever is the occasion. Even in winter time, we are using the Russian style of sauna. We have a sauna on the river bank, and then we are jumping to the rivers to cooling up.
Looks
So
like I know my
love it.
plans for the coming autumn and winter. Zuzanna.
Yeah, I think I swam like bit 2 times maybe in the mountains, so maybe the quality was enough good to survive me, how you can see. But yeah, I'm sure most of the river is not look like pleasure for us to swim inside. Yeah.
No. But I mean, people are sometimes afraid of inherent elements of riverine aquatic ecosystems, like, leeches or macroinvertebrates or macrophytes or any other plants that are growing there. So, I mean, I love it. I love this intimate contact with the river. I do it quite frequently. I have a list of places that I swam in wild.
We've got a workshop. We've built the mobile lab, which is a car, a van with equipment where you can make all the measurements of the water quality, air quality, and so on. And we are driving to the schools, inviting the kids and teachers, and going to the river, for example, taking examples, samples, and so on. And I still imagine, and I still keep in my mind, where the kids from the grant school, they were taking samples from the river because we were searching for the macrozeobenthos to see how the water quality looks like. And we got in our equipment very good microscopes, and we are showing the picture from the microscope of the big screen. And all those kids were watching the very small organisms from the river on the big screen.
Little monsters.
And some of the kids said, I will never touch the water again because this is like a dragon there, yeah. But you have to teach them about life in the river, to understand that river is not only water, yeah. This is life-giving liquid, and this is something. After one workshop, the kids are coming back home with a knowledge which they don't have from the all grant school or college, because they really touch the problem, they saw the life in the rivers, and this is the kind of education I'm talking about.
I think this is a great wrap-up of our discussion. So now I'm not sure, maybe our discussion inspired you to ask some questions. Maybe you have some ideas that you would like to share with us as well. Mm-hmm.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for your exposition. Yeah, I would like to ask you, because as you were saying, most of the activities for taking care of the rivers are being led by communities, for local communities. So I would like to, maybe you can help us to think, how can local communities push on policymakers, decision makers to change their point of view?
Thank you for this question, very good one. We are trying very hardly to do it since years. Sometimes it works. It's highly depend on the willingness of the politicians and decision makers. But sometimes very small action on the river can affect in big scale changes. And since 3 years with the local societies, we are restoring the spawning areas for salmonid fishes. Yeah, so just giving the
gravel.
The gravel back to the river, and it was so inspiring for the local authority that they were asking by themselves how we can support you on that. Yeah. So we said, giving us all the permissions, yeah, or just giving us a bit amount of money to buy, because you have to buy all the materials. And the local governments was asking the higher governments how to make it in the bigger scale. Because it's not only the issue of one community living on the river, but the river is quite long, and whatever we do in this point is influencing the next one. So the representative of the local authority, now I can say he is an activist. He is trying to convince higher government, yeah, on the voivodeship level, to make it in the more systematic way. So giving this example, involving them to the action, even the local decision makers can help a lot. And the most important thing, just really the last comment, are really healthy, very healthy relationships with the people, because we are not talking with institutions all the time. We are talking with other people. And if they are taking part in your action, and if you have a good relationship with them, they are ambassadors of the actions for the future. This is the way we are taking off.
I said earlier that I very strongly believe in a documentary as an effective tool for changes and for demanding changes. And just tell you a quick story. We opened the film with a sequence shot in Italy, where this most polluted river runs. And last May, exactly a year ago, I went back to Italy with that film, and we organized in that town through which the river flows, we organized public viewing in a local cinema. I mean, it was absolutely full, over 400 people, and we also included representatives of the local government. It was a very uneasy watch for them, but guess what? Because the story of that river, why it is basically, it's that river, I mean, it's a corpse, you know, it's not a river. It is all down to the very faulty treatment plant that doesn't clean properly the water that flows from the factories that are treating the leather. And believe it or not, you know, they, after the presentation of the film, they came up to the scene, and there was a very tough series of questions coming from me mainly. And we helped a lot with this film to this group of fantastic local activists who are fighting for cleaning up that river. And they promised, they made this promise right after the viewing, the local government, that they are going to take care of updating and making modernize this treatment facility. And it works, you know, it is really helping them. So, you know, you can help in a variety of ways. I mean, education, I mean, like this fantastic program that Peter came up with. I mean, I will be making films, but because I do believe, you know, in the message of the documentary, of spreading a useful message that really needs to seep into the, you know, common consciousness, common awareness.
I wouldn't expect the things to be improved quickly. So I would say that we need more local activists. We need more local activists upon every river. So that is why I would say we need more Evas, more Piotr's, more Zuzannas, more you. You wouldn't handle more me upon the river, for sure. So I think that it will never be, I mean, possibly one day, perhaps one day. But to us, I think the most important would be to know that every river has its own group of people who look after that. And if you look at this from the perspective of environmental management, it's like the highest ladder of stakeholder participation in the management. You give them river, and they do with the river what is good to the river. And this is related to local ecological knowledge to the people who live there.
The idea could be, I remember when traveling around the United States, on a number of highways, I saw the sign, adopt a highway. I think it would be a really good idea to spread that kind of message, adopt a river, you know, and take care of it. I mean, give the management of the river to the locals. And I promise you, I mean, from what we learn working on this film, there would be much better guardians of such river than the politician locked in their bubble, you know, far away from those rivers.
That's true.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any other comments or ideas or inspirations? If not, I think we stay with the message, we think about the river. Don't you ever dare not to look at the river when you are crossing the bridge, okay? The river is there and it should be in your mind. It is already in our minds. Thank you very much. Again, Ewa Ewart, Piotr Nieznański, Zuzanna Kulis and Mateusz Grygoruk.
Pierwsze ludzkie cywilizacje narodziły się nad ich brzegami. Dawały nam wszystko, czego potrzebowaliśmy, aby istnieć i prosperować. Większość z nich tak zniszczyliśmy, że dziś często nie są w stanie nas wspierać. Same rzeki umierają za stan. Wszystkie rzeki świata są połączone ze sobą. Wszystkie wpadają do morza. To są żyły naszej Matki Ziemi. To jest opowieść o bezsilności i desperacji, ale też o determinacji i nadziei. Ludzie rzucili wyzwanie dewastacji życiodajnych rzek. Są gotowi, aby je chronić i bronić ich praw. Do ostatniej kropli. To jest nasza planeta. To są nasze rzeki. To my decydujemy. Rzeki, pierwsze ludzkie cywilizacje, narodziły się nad ich brzegami. Dawały nam wszystko, czego potrzebowaliśmy, aby istnieć i prosperować. Większość z nich tak zniszczyliśmy, że dziś często nie są w stanie nas wspierać. Same rzeki umierają za sprawą człowieka. Wszystkie rzeki świata są połączone ze sobą. Wszystkie wpadają do morza. To są żyły naszej Matki Ziemi. To jest opowieść o bezsilności i desperacji, ale też o determinacji i nadziei. Ludzie rzucili wyzwanie dewastacji życiodajnych rzek. Są gotowi, aby je chronić i bronić ich praw. Do ostatniej kropli. To jest nasza planeta. To są nasze rzeki. To my decydujemy.